How's it, guys? Sorry for the missed day, but my laptop's Wi-Fi card decided to give up their ghost yesterday, so I've had to order a new one, and that should be coming by the end of the week. So I'm just improvising with my phone, just propped up using my phone camera, and yeah, I'm afraid we'll just have to make do with that. So we'll see how that works. I don't know. Might actually work out better. We'll see. Okay, where are we up to today? We are at chapter 23 of Snakes and Fishes. It had rained the night before, and I knew that every snake with any sense would be laying on the tarred road, warming its belly during the early morning hours. I woke the boys, and we packed all our belongings as we planned to leave Lubumbashi and collect snakes on the way to the border. With any luck, we could be out of Zaire by 9 o'clock that morning. It had not been a nice day. I had been thrown in jail twice, purely for the reason of extortion. White skin means money. Throw the white in jail, and you can get enough to live on for the next 6 months. It's a common factor among African countries. I would just sit still for half an hour and smile. The police would sit there also talking to each other. By their accents, I could tell where they're from, and then I would address them. Gentlemen, I can hear that you are Muluba tribesmen. I know because my mother was born north of Kamina, and she also spoke Luba. I know that when you people have a stranger come to your village, you must offer him beer. I am now ready and waiting for you to show your usual hospitality, and yet the time passes. This was all said in Swahili. The eyes of the police would almost pop out of their heads, and they would unlock the cell door. Excuse us, sir, we have made a mistake. They would bow and wave towards the open door. But gentlemen, I am not allowed for you to show your hospitality, and your custom says that if I leave before you've brought me beer, the spirits will not be happy. Maybe bad luck is coming your way soon, I say, rolling my eyes heavenward, as they do when they are speaking of something ominous. The police mutter between themselves, and one runs out of the door, soon returning with a bottle of Simba beer, ice cold from a small store near the jail. Glasses, my friend. I cannot drink alone. That too is against the customs of your tribe and of mine. They laugh in a nervous way and bring glasses, and I pour full glasses for them, so that a token is left for myself, as I'm not a drinker. Waf wako, I say, and down my beer. Ibidye waf wako. And they all down their beer. I shook hands with all of them and left with a big smile on my face. The following week, the same thing happened all over again, with another group of police. Yeah, that's Africa, eh? I'm just gonna get my tea sorted out, yeah. Finally got some milk again. Not having to live that poor life of tea with no milk. The horror. That's not so bad. But yeah, I mean, the number of times I've been pulled over by police on the road in Zimbabwe, just making up fines so that they can get some money, And again, white skin means money, so, and usually white people are very impatient, so they know if they pull you over and waste your time, then you'll just give them, $10, carry on. But I have a lot of patience and very little money, so I usually sit there until they get sick of me, and then they see all the other cars passing by that they could have pulled over. Then they they start to realize that they are hitting diminishing returns with me. So they're just like, you may go, go. Oops. Spilled my tea. Cry over spilled tea, huh? Cheers, by the way. Now, the boys and I had been to the Luapula River looking for tree vipers, but we had not found any in a week. We came back to Lubumbashi, and I had brought up an old Peugeot, for which I managed to get a good price. Now we were headed out of town with our newfound wealth, but still no snakes. But the weather had been in our favour. Sure enough, after the rains, snakes within a kilometre of the tar are there, waiting for us to examine them. We saw many types, but we were specifically after vipers, as that was the order we had from the Transvaal Snake Park. They had given us an aluminum snake catcher, a pole with two prongs that came together when you squeezed the handle together. However, we had only used it to pick fruit that was too high in the trees, or to pinch someone's bum when they were too far away. There ahead in the headlights is something I think is a large gaboon viper. It is short and fat. Gaboon vipers are the most venomous of all vipers and can get up to 5.5 feet long. This one is about 4.5 feet long. And just guessing his weight, I would say he was about 12 pounds. They are usually very docile, but I have seen them brace up against a tree root and strike so hard that they actually launch themselves right off the ground. Their fangs unhinge and point forward as they strike, and the full weight of their body helps to push in all the venom. Not quite true, but anyway, they can launch themselves with a strike. That has been observed. But the weight of the snake doesn't really affect the venom pumping. That's controlled by very special muscles around the glands. Anyway, but most of the time, it takes a lot to get them flustered, and the most you can get out of them is a hiss, much like a puff adder. I get out of the Land Cruiser with my little canvas bag, with the zip open. I come slowly to the viper, talking gently all the time. I hold the bag open and very slowly lower the bag near the head of the viper, squatting behind it. It eyeballs me for a minute with those eyes that are situated on the top of its leaf-shaped head. The tongue flicks in and out a couple of times, and then slowly it starts to caterpillar into the bag between my spread hands. It knows it's in danger, so it wants to hide away in a dark spot. The only dark place that it sees is the bag, and so that's where it heads. It coils slowly. You can hear the scales rubbing against each other, as it is a confined space for such a thick-bodied snake. Once inside, I let go slowly with one hand, and again very slowly zip the bag shut. Voila! This will be worth as much as the car we just sold. Now, for the border. Zaire side security is so hungover that they just stamp our passports and we are through. The Zambians are more thorough. We want to check your car. That will be my pleasure, sir. I take him to the cruiser and unzip my little canvas bag. You can start by looking in this bag. This is my main carry bag, sir. He comes over and with his hand pulls the canvas aside. He goes an ashen grey colour and his mouth opens but no sound comes out. Suddenly his legs take over, and after a few steps his voice comes into play. The people inside the customs and immigration house haven't seen a thing, except their friend. And they come hurtling out of the door and through the windows, following their colleague out into the forest. Well, that was easy, says Moz. We go to the counter and find the keys for the boom, unlock it and leave the keys in the padlock. Driving down the road, we plan a fishing trip. Let's go to Mauritius, I say. Let's go to Mana Pools, says Matt. Well, let's do both, says Moz. And all the way down to Johannesburg, we make plans for our fishing trip. We go to a fishing shop on Jeppe Street, partly owned by my friend Werner van Albinslib. Yeesh. That's an Afrikaner's name if I've ever seen one. Ja, Frikkie. Werner van Albensleben, the Baron of Africa, and he makes sure we get 50% of everything we buy. Shakespeare rods, yards of trace for tiger, swivels, hooks of all sizes, reels of line from 8 to 50 pound, a Mitchell reel for myself, as the last one I had. I lent to Cyril, and when he put it down on the ground, just for a second, the whole thing went into the Zambezi, leaving just a trail of bubbles, pulled no doubt by the biggest fish in the river. So I've actually had that experience when I was at Kariba with my dad and a few of his friends who were on a houseboat. We had parked up for the night. So I wanted to do a bit of night fishing off the back of the houseboat. Put a nice wad of worms on the end of this hook and a lead weight, and cast it out, let it sink to the bottom. I was hoping to get like vundu or Cornish jack or something like that. And then the call for supper was made by the cook, so I was looking for a place to set my rod, but all the rod holders were full. So I set the drag to the lowest, and then placed my rod there, just sort of on the floor, but against the railing of the houseboat. There's like this railing, and there was like a seat bench in front of the railing. So I kind of like hooked the reel against the seat bench, and we went for supper. Then we had just finished. No, I think we were even still praying for the meal. We were saying grace for the meal, and then we hear this turn and look, and my rod just so it levered. It was bent over 90 degrees, and it levered over the fish. Pulled the rod end down, flicked the back end up like that, and it just went shoo. On the lowest drag. This fish took my whole rod into the lake, and never saw it again. Just a trail of bubbles. Yeah. To this day, I don't know what took that rod, but it must have been a substantial fish, probably a vundu. We stop in Harare just long enough to get supplied with groceries and get our camping gear, and then we are off to Mana Pools. By now, we know Mana Pools so well that we know where to catch what species. Today we are going for tiger. Matt is still to catch a big one, and we think that upriver from camp, in a channel between the mainland and an island, will be some big ones. Moz catches a 5-pounder, which puts up a great fight. I am more interested in a couple of elephant wandering down the trail in our direction, and don't pay much attention to the fishing. After all, I'm dreaming of Mauritius already, and the deep sea fishing we will be doing there. On the way through Harare, I had already shot down to my travel agent and bought the tickets. Matt hooks into a tiger, and it looks like this is a big one. He fights it up and down the bank for a while, and then it wraps the line in the branches of a fallen tree, and there goes the proverbial biggest fish. Always seems the biggest fish are the ones that get away, huh? After this, it seems the fish have gone off the bite. The elephant bulls came by, and we just stood very still. They picked up a couple of acacia seed pods and continued, unconcerned, on their way. I then see a hippo across on the island, sleeping under a Natal mahogany tree. I'm gonna go over there and jump on that hippo, I announce. No way, Dad. Don't be crazy. This is Moz. I'm coming with you, from Matt. We get the canoe out of the cruiser and go upstream and cross to the island. The wind is blowing strongly toward us, so that we make it to the tree without alerting the hippo. Both Matt and I climb the tree together, and then I ease out onto a branch right above the hippo. I look at Matt and wink. He is fairly bursting to laugh, but doesn't let out a sound. Mars is on the opposite bank, watching even though he has a line in the river. I look down on the sleeping hippo. He is a bull and has obviously been in a few scraps, as his thick hide is covered in scars. I do a little hop and land astride the wide back, and then try to wrap my arms around the huge neck. The hippo lets out a roar and takes off as fast as he can. However, instead of going for the ramp that goes down into the river, he goes for the nearest point, where there happens to be a 15-foot bank. I have fallen off in the first few trots, as it was a rough ride, and I'm not the best of riders. The hippo dives off the bank opposite Moz and lands with a tremendous splash. The two boys are in paroxysms of laughter. I am pleased too. I've always wanted to do that. A week at Mana Pools passed quickly, and now we are on our way to Mauritius. We have taken a tin trunk with 200 pounds of food in it. It took some sweet talking to get that on the plane. No kidding, you'd never be able to do that nowadays. Flippin' heck. We are still a bit short of money for the trip, so when we are in duty free, I buy a dozen bottles of whiskey and 1,000 cigarettes. I hear you can get good money for these items in Mauritius, and we're off. You are only allowed 1 bottle of whiskey each, the customs man tells me at the airport in Mauritius. I'm from Zimbabwe, sir. No one told us, and we are on holidays. I shrug my shoulders. I know they all speak French. C'est la vie, monsieur. Bon, when do you leave? We check the tickets and he tells me, when you leave, you help me, n'est pas? Oh, for sure, monsieur. And after a wink, we are out of the door and headed for Trop Beach. We found a bungalow to rent for 2 weeks, and the whiskey was accepted as payment. We traded cigarettes for samosas on the sidewalk on many occasions, and the trunk of food easily lasted us the 2 weeks. In fact, we ate like kings. The 3rd of October is the birthday for Moz and me. A bit of sharp shooting there on my part. Today we are treating each other to a deep sea fishing trip. We go in a 40-foot trawler that had 2 V8 Caterpillar diesels. The captain is just out on another trip and pays absolutely no attention to where he's going. I scan the horizon with my binoculars and think I see a cloud of seabirds. Head that way, Captain, I shout. We don't fish there, monsieur. We fish over that way. He points a few degrees off to where I see the birds. You want fish, monsieur? Ma oui, he replies, questions written all over his face. Then go to where the birds are, Captain. They are showing us the fish. I point to the cloud of birds that one can clearly see now. He turns the boat, and as we get to the birds, we throw out the lines. They've barely even hit the water, and we hook into bonita. We pull them in one after the other, and then I hook a dorado. Moz also hooks into a dorado, and we marvel at the incredible colors of these fish. Clear and bright up until the time they get to the boat. They have beautiful colors, and as they are pulled out of the water, the fish fades to a normal dead fish color. Marlin! Marlin! Squeals Matt. I saw one. One of the lions screams for a brief second and then goes limp. We had spoken of catching marlin on so many occasions, but never thought we'd see one, never mind catch one. Just seeing the fin, hearing the scream of the reel, just being there was almost like catching one. Later that night, Moz put the experience into perspective. You remember, Dad, when you took me to shoot that wounded buffalo on Buck's Place? Moz was carrying the 458, and I had nothing to back him up. We had agreed that after Moz shot, both of us would climb up the nearest tree. We could smell the buffalo, barely see him through the bush. I even had a bead on his shoulder. I was so aware of everything. And then he just ran away. But the adrenaline was still pumping through me like I had shot him. That's the way I felt today with that marlin. Our captain was allowed by custom to take all the fish, but had given us the biggest of the dorado. We had taken some firewood, making a big fire on the beach, and roasted the fish slowly, basting it with an oil, vinegar, and tomato sauce concoction. Ooh, lovely. Made a big pot of salsa, and I think every Zimbabwean on the beach ended up having dinner with us. Strange how when people are at home in Zim, they don't eat salsa, but suddenly when they are abroad, they miss it. It's too true, man. Want to take a piece and roll it in your hand like you used to do when you were a kid out in the servants' quarters. Dip it in relish or take it with a piece of fish or meat. Pop it into your mouth and savor with it. Dreams from the past. Sadza has that effect. It's very hard to maintain all those airs and graces, those social walls when you're eating stiff maize porridge with your hands. Ooh, yeah. I'm actually making some sadza and stew with a rape relish for some of my mates here at university in the States. Get them to experience the joy of salsa. And how did you enjoy your holiday? Beamed the customs official who had first met us as we were getting ready to leave. Wonderful, great fishing, our best birthday, lovely people. I knew what was then coming. Please, monsieur, if you can help me, take your passport and these rupees, and they will change it into US dollars for you. I will wait here. I took the rupees and again with a wink went to the airport bank. With my foreign passport, there were no questions for the changing of the money. I shook hands with the customs official. Well, thank you for letting us bring in the whiskey. Paid for the lodging. No problem, monsieur. Come again. Right. I don't know if Mauritians actually have a French accent, but I know French is one of it's the main official language, so thought I'd give it a shot. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Hope this worked well, and have a good night. Sleep well, and I'll check you later. Cheers.